Hello, team. I'm looking forward to working with you to share the good news of Christ in Odessa. I wanted to send you this series of videos to hopefully give you a better understanding of what you'll be doing in your classes for the activities. First, I think it's important that you get to know your level of students. So if you're teaching a beginner class, these students are going to know some words and they know memorized phrases, but they have a difficult time putting into sentences. So really what you're going to be looking for as you go through the activities for your beginners are answers in one-word phrases. And you're going to want to be giving them a long wait time and not really rushing them. It's really okay to take a longer period of time and do less and allow those students and give them an understanding that they can think and they're not feeling rushed. So for your lower intermediate students, your pre-intermediates, otherwise known, are students that can talk in one sentences. Usually they're simple sentences and they have a lot of grammatical mistakes, but they're able to express their ideas better than the beginners. They can't freely express their ideas. They're gonna get maybe stopped up on a few words, but usually they can find they have enough words in their memory bank to express what they want, a basic idea of what they're wanting to say. So for them, you're going to be asking them to do more describing than you would in the beginner class and a little bit more talking. These activities that were designed are two activities for each lesson that's taught. One activity is having them practice the vocabulary that is taught in the lesson. And then the other activity is to give them opportunities for conversation. Because after all, this is called English Up, and so we want them to speak up, even the beginners. So for the beginners, we're going to be providing a lot of support for them and a lot of wait time for them. And then that's going to trail off a little bit more for the lower intermediate. But of course, we're always going to be providing that support and that wait time for them. So let me briefly go through the first day's activities. The first lesson is 10 things to do while you're stuck at the airport. So as you can see, if you're looking through the list of activities with me, there's a first kind of a get to know you activity called Toss a Name. So some of you may have large groups of students. It's very important to know that if we design a game and we're trying to do it with the entire group and we have anywhere above 10 or more people, it's going to limit the amount of interaction that you're going to have with the students. So it's very important to try, if you can, to divide the students into groups of 10 or less to do each activity. So if you have more than 10 students or maybe 20 students, I would do this activity in 2 circles of 10. So you're going to get in a circle and you're going to have a soft object. And each person is going to decide what would they do if they're stuck at an airport or a train station or a bus station. And so you would give them the sentence starter, if I were stuck at, and they would finish the phrase. And then they would toss it to the next person. And then they would repeat that. And then they would toss it to the next person, adding what they would do if they were stuck in an airport, until it goes all the way around back to the leader. And then the leader will then call out someone's name in the circle and throw the ball to him or her at the same time, saying what that person would do while being stuck at an airport. So they really have to pay attention to the person's name and what they would do. Oh, I forgot to add, whenever they are saying what they would do when they're stuck, they also have to say their name. Again, so that we get to know these students. And then the next activity is called Password. Some of you have maybe have seen this in TV. where you would have four chairs stationed at the front of the room. 2 are facing the whiteboard and 2 are facing the opposite direction. You will write a vocabulary word on the whiteboard for one person in the team to see. That person then can only say one word to help the other person try to think of what it is. If that person gets it correct, then that team wins. If the person gets it incorrect, the next team can say one word, what they believe it, one word that would help that person figure out what it is, or if the person thinks they know, they can guess what it is. And then you would keep doing this, getting 2 pairs from each team to come up and try to guess the word. Of course, you're wanting to go back and forth between teams so that one team isn't always the one starting the game. That kind of gives them a disadvantage. Then the next lesson for the first day is the 10 rules of packing. So you have the first activity, I packed my bag for America. So what you're going to be doing is getting them into small groups. Of course, the smaller the groups, the better. So I would always recommend getting them to groups of 3 to 4. And you're going to go through the alphabet. So for the beginners, I would write the alphabet on the board for them. And as they go through the circle, so they could do this either in small groups and go through the alphabet A through Z, trying to name something that they would pack in their bag to go to America. Or you can get them into a circle, and as you go around the circle, they can progress to the next letter and try to think of something that they would pack to go to America. For example, A, I would pack an apple. B, I would pack a book. C, I would pack a comb. For the beginners, you may want to get them into pairs or into 2 or 3 so that they can combine their thoughts and combine their vocabulary knowledge in order to achieve this. And then the last activity for the day is mix, freeze, pair. Again, you're going to want to make sure that this isn't a bigger group than 10 or 12. So if you have 20 or more students, I would divide the class into half and do this activity in 2 separate parts of the room. Each person would be given a slip of paper with a vocabulary word that they learned during that day. And then as they walk around, you're going to yell, freeze. And they must stop. And then you say, pair. They're going to find the person closest to them. And they're going to need to describe if they are a pre-intermediate or lower intermediate student. Or if they're a beginner, they can act out the vocabulary term that they have in their hand and try to have their pair guess what it is. Once they have done that for both sides, they then switch their slips of paper, and then you ask them to mix again or walk around. And you repeat this. Say freeze, they must stop. Pair, they find the person closest to them, and again, they try to describe or act out what their vocabulary term is. And that is the Monday's lesson. If you have any questions, you can certainly find me during the English Up event, and I would love to answer any questions you might have.